Hey everybody, it's Todd from Wither and Bloom Studios. We are looking forward to tonight where we are going to be doing a post-mortem session on our Daggerheart campaign that we ran for 3 sessions, which, as a playtest, I think it went pretty well, but we have a lot to say. So we're excited to do that. You guys have stuff to talk about, right?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
So can I lead off on this? Because I kind of want to put that thought out there about why we're doing this. Like why we want to give feedback on the playtest. It was exciting to look at the beta rules and the different drops and the changes, looking at the changelog. But I'm coming at this from the standpoint of a design thinker. And I have to say, I've seen a lot of videos out there. When you search for Daggerheart on YouTube, you see a lot of videos out there that are really just trying to point out the flaws in this game. And as a design thinker, I am trying to sort of collaborate with the generosity of the game designers and say, here's where we think this needs work and improvement, but we are excited about what you're doing, right? I think a lot of these are just about, let's tear this down so we can get some views. So we don't want to do that. So let's start off with that thought. So we were talking about this earlier, about this kind of collaborative exercise that tabletop role-playing games sort of offer.
Yeah, I think there's like this really wonderful like kind of benevolence. It's like a collaborative storytelling experience that we all get to deal with, and it's not like we're going fisticuffs against each other. So right off the bat, there's that. And I thought that this mechanic had a lot of really interesting ways for us to kind of develop our approach to the game, like not only in our character development, but how we interacted, the differences in combat. I thought there was a lot of really cool collaborative connective tissue in this game mechanic, and I really like that aspect of it.
It's kind of a fresh take. It's something different.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I want to kind of jump off that on is the notion that Daggerheart is more focused on the narrative aspects of tabletop roleplay, and how I think that leans into this notion of collaborative storytelling, which is a really heavy part of my interest base in playing this game, is how I love storytelling, I love world building, but I only love it when I'm at a table with people that want to do it with me and help me build that story.
Yes, and like jumping off of that point exactly, like I loved, one of my favorite moments about Daggerheart wasn't even when we were playing the actual game, though I fucking loved the shit out of it. Was sitting here and like asking each other these questions when we're developing our characters. Like,
the connection questions.
Yeah, they had
right?
connection questions on the actual sheet itself, where you could say like, "Hey, what did your character say to my character that made me feel this way?" And you could just sit around and just network with your party before even like starting session 1.
But the thing is that Daggerheart, or is that us actually creating our characters at the table together, which we've never done before?
I think
It's a good point.
it's the fact that Daggerheart has encouraged us to do so.
Yeah.
We could have definitely done so in, under D&D. But I think Daggerheart directed us to do so in the first place, but directed us in a very unique way that I think we would not have come up with.
Yeah,
We
I
might have
think-
come up with something just as functional but different.
Right. I think the difference is that, we develop our characters simultaneously when we're either creating in a session 0, but this mechanic really has a designated option that's built into the mechanic to encourage that, which I really thought was a really smart design idea. It was a really cool way to just instantly inject backstory connections that were launch points for further development of stories.
That's true.
And it just helped things happen organically, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's kind of their intention on, come to the table and quick put together a game. They have the mechanics built in, the cards or etc. that, a DM could just throw out at the table and with a little bit of knowledge just be like, boom, here's a character.
Right.
You can gain connections, you can gain backgrounds, and with a couple of questions, figure it out. And I like that aspect.
Yeah.
It's different.
Creative little shortcuts.
Yeah,
It's like a
yeah,
framework.
yeah.
It's like a framework.
It's a framework.
Totally.
Yeah.
I like the built-in framework. Or completely toss that out and just, do whatever you want with it.
Right. Well, I want to point out that we put that poll up on YouTube to see what the viewers wanted us to kind of address in this, and that kind of leads into there were two primary things. It seemed like a few people answered, and it was nice. But experience seemed to be one, and then fear token usage by the DM was the other big one, and this notion of leaning into the narrative. To me, the fear tokens and the hope and fear dice are critical for it, and I love that decision on their part to put this forth. Now I struggled with that. There were some really generous commenters on YouTube. So one commenter named Rabbit.com who gave me a lot of feedback, which I was really interested in, mentioned a number of things about this. And for me as a DM, the fear die or the fear token aspect was, I'm struggling with that, but I'm actually looking forward to using it in homebrew, where as the game developer as the story developer for my homebrew campaign, I can say, okay, if I'm going to use fear, I know where this goes. Now, of course, if I had really read the adventure, I would know too. But I'm more of a homebrew person, so reading the manual thoroughly is tough for me.
I was just going to say on that, it's a whole different aspect. And I've watched a couple of different people, different videos. And I think that's one of the opinions is the DM, GM, whatever, incorporating the fear into the roles. Like more storytelling about when we make a roll with fear, whether we succeed or not, there's supposed to be a little bit of a story element into that. And I don't think we did that so much, but I think that would come with more time, and more play.
The more we got used to it, the more we would start incorporating it.
I like that there's, something different there. I like the two different dice with the different generating mechanics and stuff. It was there. I liked it.
One thing that I still am not sure how much I love it, and I've talked with Rich a lot about it because I still don't know whether I liked it or hated it, is from like a role play aspect. Like for example, I think it was in episode 1 when my character was reaching out to try to pet the dog. My character, I feel like in a role play aspect, would not be fearful in that moment. But because I rolled with fear, it's like, okay, now I have to play it that she was a little fearful. But it's like in that moment that she was in her element. So that's one thing that I'm still playing with. I'm like, I don't know if I love having the dice tell me something about my character that I did in my makeup of the character.
See, that's a good point, but then I wonder if you still have the freedom to say, okay, even though this is not in my character's makeup, how could fear be applied in a way that could, somehow either supplement it or be outside of it?
I'm still trying to figure out whether I'm indifferent on that aspect. It was just something I noticed when I was playing because I remember when I was like, oh, I roll with fear. And then as the DM, you started describing the scene. I'm like, I don't know if she would feel that way. And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I think as GM, one thing I could insert there is if you roll with fear, well, first of all, now with the new 1.3 drop, as the GM, I can either add a fear token to my collection or take over the actions, whereas before it was both. So if I were to take over that, knowing that fear has now dominated in your role, maybe it was the dog that had fear, right? And all of a sudden grew more aggressive. So I think it's got an openness to it that is pretty interesting.
Yeah, even though it's kind of binary in that it's either like you're getting one coloration to the situation or another, there's still a lot of like spectrum in it in terms of, I think there's enough freedom where you can kind of figure out how you would apply that to how you play it. Like it colors things in a way that's still left to chance. But at the same time, you can kind of be like, my character would not be this fucking scared. Yeah. But to Todd's point, maybe the dog was scared, and that would trigger it to attack you. Yeah. So it could be looked at as more of a situational thing versus like how you're interacting with it, which is cool as shit. That like, there's so much that can be interpreted into it.
So on that, elimination of initiative was another big topic that seemed to kind of be, at the center. And again, 1.3 rule changes changed some of that a little bit.
Yeah, they added a system in there. I think probably because a lot of people made a comment. Such a drastic jump to eliminating initiative if all you've ever played is D&D, like 5e. They added a system in there where the players each get action tokens to spend And when they're gone, you know, your time is up until the action tokens around the board have been spent. Yeah, I think that was partially most of our opinions were sometimes we felt sidelined in combat, or I know my opinion, and you already touched on this, how they've already changed the GM getting a fear token or taking a move. Is I felt there were so many times where we rolled with fear. I mean, we're playing with 5 people here. There were so many times during combat that someone rolled with fear, and it's like, all right, GM's turn.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, I wanted to do something, and I just felt like sidelined so many times.
Just weren't quick enough.
Or
Right.
yeah, if you
I
didn't
think-
jump
Because we
into
had
it.
these
Yeah,
two
yeah.
that were just
I
like,
think
oh,
they're
go.
working on that, though.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's also something that, you know,
Well, you know, I have to say, you know, since our typical campaign is run through 5e,
yes.
and I'm always looking for alternatives to the typical initiative roll system. I think we talked about this last week pregame, where there was a social media content maker that I saw that talked about his version of initiative at his table, where before the game begins, he has everyone roll initiative, and he keeps track of that number for the night. Then he has a predetermined list of numbers, all initiative rolls that he's made for every encounter you could possibly have. And then he goes to the next one in line every time you have an encounter. So when you encounter a situation, he looks at his list, whoever rolled highest on initiative for that situation, he would just say, Rich, what do you want to do here? Because the problem is when we know we've entered initiative, everybody thinks it's time to fight. And very rarely do we say, let's assess the problem.
Right.
And maybe do something that's a little bit less combative and be creative.
Right.
So in this system with action tokens, I think it's similar in that by eliminating this thing of roll for initiative, okay, everybody draw swords, let's fight,
Time to go.
we now have other options. And they could be narrative options. I love that.
I also love that. I think that is just a really nice alternative, and I'd like to try it out.
Well, I think where that plays into Daggerheart is a good GM is going to be able to say to his players or her players or their players, you know, so-and-so, what do you want to do here? So, you know, and move around the table. Now, of course, that doesn't take away from your ability to say, I want to spend an action token and stab this guy in the face. Fine, you know, but I think it's kind of got to be a give and take. There's got to be a way to find balance.
Yeah.
I always want to spend an action token and stab this guy in the face.
I feel
Just
like
as
we
a
all
general
do.
rule of thumb, if I could do that in the real world, it'd be helpful.
I think that's fine.
Oh, this computer.
I think
fucking
also, like, in playing Daggerheart, there was a little bit of, like, frustration when it comes to, like, outcomes. Because, like, what if something really bad happened and you're like, oh, this happened because somebody jumped in and I didn't get to say this fast enough, and it's like there's kind of like an argumentative aspect there, when in D&D it's like the dice are king. Well, the dice decided what happened.
Well, the dice decided what order it's going to happen in.
Right.
Yeah,
for that
so what are you
particular
going to
round
argue?
of it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
Well,
I missed that.
I wonder then, and maybe this is a good thing and maybe this is a bad thing. I'm not sure what I'm saying here, but, and this might sort of suggest the notion of metagaming, which I don't like, but maybe it does. But let's say you jump in and you're like, I'm going to pull my sword out and make an attack.
Yeah.
But Garrett's character has an idea that maybe this is not a situation that warrants that. They want to do something and says to you, wait a minute, don't do that because I want to do this. Now you're talking about the
Yeah.
argumentative
Right.
thing,
See,
right?
Going off of that, I really liked the ability, for example, in D&D when you have that initiative order and somebody might, you know, somebody's going down and the only person that can heal them is all the way at the bottom of the initiative. But that's what they would do, and they have the ability to kind of jump in before, you know, during this new wave
Sure.
initiative, and kind of, or again, like, if somebody's charging at one of your party mates and your character wants to, like, pull them out of the way, now you can kind of do that and not have to wait all the way to this list. That's just kind of where I'm at.
There were definite aspects of the non-initiative that I did like with the team-up attacks and
Team
stuff
up
like
attacks
that.
Yeah.
were awesome.
That was
And that's
cool.
why,
100%.
they did do that.
Yeah.
Is, I feel like you can lack that in 5e if you're very structured to a number-based initiative, where, being more of a narrative-driven initiative in Daggerheart, you have that ability. So I mean, there are good aspects to it.
Well, that also the team up attacks, and this other notion of like a party's kind of flow, like as you guys get to know each other, the characters get to know each other, and you go through several situations, you kind of learn, I think, how you react in situations,
Right.
which might create a more collaborative understanding when a situation occurs. Like you might turn to somebody who's a natural group leader and say, what do you think we should do here?
Yeah.
Right?
To that point, I think, we really, even though we created 3 sessions out of that first one shot, we've experienced combat twice. And I can see a marked difference between the first time that we engaged in combat and the second time that we did. We really developed a lot more of that collaborative aspect. Not just in the fact that, we came up with a great fastball special kind of scenario. With that team up action is just so damn cool. And the fact that almost anybody can initiate it. So like the 2 of us could do that twice together.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Awesome. But,
Yeah.
I completely lost my train of thought.
No, but I think what you're kind of. I'm an old ass man. It doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
What I Pyre was awesome. But what I think you're going for there is the increase in our sort of understanding of the system from one set of combat to another. And I feel like if we played this again, which we're going to, I feel like that's going to get even better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll-
Well said.
Yeah,
That
and I'm
was
going to
exactly what I
talk
was
about.
trying to get
I'm
to.
going to talk about what we're going to do with Daggerheart towards the end of this. But so I think elimination of initiative is a great thing, but I think everybody's probably going to have their own flavor of that at the table that mixes what they do and what we want to do. Sort of like we always have.
Right.
Can I bring up one thing really quick in
Yeah.
case we're moving on from kind of a combat conversation? One thing that I kind of liked being at, the first level, kind of the amount of access that at least my character and what I was playing had access to spell-wise that were very similar to cantrips that didn't cost me anything. So almost every single thing that I had, I could use over and over and over again. There was no, spell slot. I think I had, one thing. Yeah, I had one thing that I had to wait for a long rest to use again. As opposed to, when you're in level 1, you don't have as many things that you can do in D&D. Here you kind of have a lot that you can do, and I didn't really feel stuck, which was nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else
Yeah,
had that.
I agree.
I felt the complete opposite. My character, and I know I didn't go back and look at different card options that I had or, ability options. I felt watching other players at the table could do so much more than what I could do, and I felt like,
Okay.
I definitely felt like
But
level
wait.
1 for my character. At
Kind
least.
of going off of that, I guess there is a similarity in D&D because, for example, when I would play as a rogue in D&D and I would see all the spellcasters having so many things that they can do, and as a rogue, all I could do was stab people and run away.
Oh, come on. The rogue is one of the best classes in D&D.
I love playing a
Yeah.
rogue. There's a lot
But
that a
not
rogue
for
can do.
combat.
For combat, it gets monotonous. Hold on.
Until you get to
hold
a
on.
point where you can deal
When you're
97
level-
points of
when you're,
damage in one
level
hit.
Yeah,
6
level
and
3,
Yeah.
for fuck's sake.
Whoa. I played a rogue for over a year, okay? I loved my rogue. But towards the end of that character, I was like, I wish I could do
No, I get
a
what
little
she's
bit more.
saying. It's just stab something and go hide. Stab something and
Yeah.
go hide.
You
I'm
deal
not
a
even-
lot of damage.
I hear you.
But
I
that's
hear
just
you.
the type of character.
I'm going to say, though, for Daggerheart, I played a rogue, and I felt very trapped. I felt like once I ran out of stress points, I could do jack all. I was sitting there stabbing the same guy over and over again, and it got really boring.
But we did, as Olivia
Yeah.
said, we did play at level 1.
Yeah.
And as you
Yeah.
increase, you
Yeah.
know, you're definitely going to get a lot more actions and a lot more different things
Yeah.
to use.
I think I was just surprised at what me as a wizard had at level 1 in Daggerheart versus what other characters have had at level 1. And I guess it's kind of similar because if you look at, like you were saying, here you felt stuck, whereas...
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yes.
And I think another key thing to mention here is we were sticking to the rule book and the module that was sort of provided.
Yeah.
So when we get a little bit more versed in what we can do and what the GM is willing to offer, like either maybe in a homebrew campaign or, there's probably going to be more nuance a little bit more flavor and detail that maybe the rogue could acquire or the sorcerer could acquire or so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think as it goes along, it would be completely different. And I think, when we play more, we'll find that out.
Yeah.
Side note, Rich, your next character should definitely be Jack All.
Jack Gall. And I can't help
Jack
but say you felt a little bit bored, Garrett, with the with Ginkgo, but you had that tongue.
No, I had that tongue
tongue
though. That
though.
tongue
That
though.
tongue
And
was-
I did,
And you used it.
there were a
dickhead.
couple of times
tongue
that
in.
that was a lot of fun.
It's beautiful.
See, okay,
And outside of combat, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but then again, that also left a lot of question because I know when you were using your silk, there was moments where we were like, would this technically be 2 actions for what you were trying to do? You know what I mean?
So, yes, we'd have to
Yeah.
go back and check, but they did change a lot of the
Okay.
terminology going from 1.2 to 1.3, where now they've described using an action. They've put that
Okay.
wording in there for a lot of different things.
So that would
Okay.
be helpful.
Because there were a lot of questionable things that we didn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
But now on a lot of abilities it says use an action.
Got it.
So
See, that's helpful.
there's a lot of clarification stuff, and
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out when we delve into 1.3.
So,
Yeah.
have we brought up the fact that the response time on this beta testing has been amazing? Like, the fact
Oh,
that
yeah.
we went from 1.2 to 1.3 in the span of, like, a
And
week
there-
or two?
I
Thank
mean-
you. Kudos to you for, like, listening to
Listening.
everybody
There are
and really pulling that out.
so many updates.
So crazy.
There are so many updates.
Well, I was impressed with the change log and how, like after we did the first session, I went right in and filled out the survey and threw some stuff in there. And then with one of the drops very soon after that, and I'm not saying it was my suggestion. I'm sure many people had those suggestions. Mine were not that detailed.
It was yours, Todd.
It
Yeah,
had to be
it was
me.
totally
It was
yours.
me. It was me. No, but I loved how fast the responses were. And, honestly,
Proof of a good game maker right there.
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
gonna
Because
help.
I feel like when you play test any game in game design, you have to divorce yourself from your ego and what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Because if you're genuinely interested in your players having a good time, then you're going to be listening to the feedback. And, any sense of critique that you're receiving in anything you do comes with, well, how much are you going to take for your own and grow from? And how much do you need to leave behind because you feel like it just isn't suitable? And it's hard to make those decisions, but I feel like they're doing a pretty good job here.
Yeah. Agreed.
Experience was another big one.
Ooh, yeah, that was kind of fun. We talked about that a lot. I mean, I think it was pretty cool that we could kind of come up with our own, personal backstories that would lead us to that experience level. So, like, for example, mine that really helped was I created one that was Curiosity Killed the Cat because my character was very curious. So everything I did that, was a little, when I tried to pet the dog. Everything comes back to when I tried to pet the freaking dog.
I'm gonna pet that
I'm gonna pet that
Can I
dog.
pet that dog? I want to pet that dog.
But it really helped, and like it was cool, kind of coming up with our own things. But I will say, I was very confused, and I feel like a lot of us struggled a
We
little
were
bit
very confused.
when we
Yes.
first started. Like we were like, what can we do? Like
Never even
Yeah.
used it. I
Yeah.
never used it.
Yeah.
Well, but hang on. I think this is an interesting point, actually, because we have sort of been talking about where we feel a little bit of confusion, and all of that confusion tends to come from things that don't have full-blown structure yet, right? And I found that skills in D&D as a DM always hobbled me because I wanted my characters, my players, to be able to develop skills that were not on that list. And of course, we have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was no guidance, right? So in that respect, I kind of wanted more freedom. Now, with experience in Daggerheart, we're given carte blanche.
Yeah.
We can pretty much put anything we want in there with no guidance whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. And I have a feeling that one of the things that's really going to come to light in third-party content, in Reddit forums, and all kinds of like different ways is people's ideas of how they use experience.
Oh, yeah.
It's just going to be huge. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's something to learn. Like, like you said, we're very confused. I think it just
Yeah.
comes from playing 5e and now having the ability to kind of choose or create what you want, it's like we're just kind of looking at it like, but it's a very cool mechanic.
I also feel like in that experience and all the versatility and all the promise and all the possibility that I'm excited about is there's going to be people out there that abuse this.
Well, yeah.
There's going to
Yeah,
be people
always.
that try to find, it's sort of like Magic the Gathering, like the perfect set, the perfect combo set of cards.
Yeah.
That is just like, I found a way to beat.
Well, that's
And
where
we-
It's like also there's no fun now.
but
That's
Right.
the game's over in 2 rounds.
That's
the
it.
GM
Yeah.
needs to step in and say that that's not
See,
usable.
I
Yeah,
felt
like
that
silvery
was,
barbs.
That well,
There we go.
that was one of my worries.
The old
when,
SB debate again.
I love that I can't speak in this
Okay,
room.
let
Olivia
sometimes.
talk.
Let Olivia talk.
She gets the talking pillow.
Yeah, you get the talking
We need to have
stick.
like a baton. I swear to God.
Here's
Have
the
the
wand.
conch.
This is like the initiative conversation. People felt left out. Anyway,
Yeah, I'll hold
thank
it,
you.
I'll hold it,
No,
hold it more.
I have the talking stick. Anyway,
Sorry, what were you saying?
if I can remember, I felt like that's one thing that I was nervous about when I was creating my experiences because I was like, is this going to be too OP? I don't know where the line is for what I can do, what I can't do, what would be helpful. And I feel like when I tried to ask Rich to help me with them, and he was like, I don't know how to help you with these.
Well, the good thing about it is that it's always up for debate. You're gonna thank you.
Oh my God.
Here we
The
go.
good thing is that it's always up for debate. You're gonna be like, hey, I feel like my character would get a bonus to this, and the DM can always say no.
Correct. And I also feel like you were only getting a +2 and a +1 in these experience slots at the get-go.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't know. I get you. And I'm glad you're wondering whether it'll become OP. And I was even the one who said someone's going to abuse this.
Yeah.
But I think if good table conversation, good gameplay conversation would avoid that to some degree, I would hope. It's like, hello, Miss Rowling? I'm sorry. It's them. It's not me.
Don't get me started.
No.
Trans rights are cool.
Not. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, don't tell him.
Oh, was that a bad reference?
No, it's whatever. It's out
Moving
there.
on.
It's out there. Moving on.
We're doing
All right.
Daggerheart right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
what else?
There was a thing about Daggerheart where I think they really leaned into customization in every aspect of character creation. The armors had specific abilities they do that you can mix and match, and there was no restriction on said armors that you could put on. The weapons had
That's
special
changed
skills.
in 1.3 though.
Oh fuck.
But keep going because we'll talk about
Yeah.
that.
The
But keep
weapons
going.
had specific abilities, like the dagger could attack someone nearby. The whip, I turned in as a spider character. I made the whip my butt silk, and pulled people towards me. And there was every part of character creation. They made a little bit more open ended, which was super exciting.
But one of the things that I found that was a little bit weird was in terms of armor, there was a breastplate option for my character, which I thought was super cool because I had these gauntlets and I was like, oh my god, I'm playing a gorilla. I'm gonna king. But the damn breastplate had a lower armor bonus than being bare bones,
Naked.
which was an aspect of
Well,
being
it's part of your class.
my
so I
class,
mean,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was was that my bad in terms of how I built that character, or was it
Yeah.
like,
I think, yeah.
Well, that would have happened in D&D too.
Yeah,
Had you,
I guess.
if a barbarian puts on chainmail,
Yeah.
you're making a huge mistake there.
Sure, but
You
come
know.
on, how can you resist the option to have a giant gong on your chest
I hear you.
when you're a simian? I mean,
Well, but
ah,
I
for
think with the
flavor.
elimination of traditional armor class and this notion of fine, you want to wear that breastplate because you want to have that personalization to it. Okay, you take a little bit of a hit, but really that number is about how you're reducing incoming damage, not necessarily about whether or not something can hit you, right? So yes, it still doesn't track perfectly with how that mechanic unfolds in combat, but I feel like it's open-ended enough that it can play.
right?
Right? A little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I was just confused about it because I didn't delve into it as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I get that. They did fix some of the things we were talking
They've
about.
changed a lot of different things. I know armor now has 6 slots. The the damage thresholds have been completely changed. Like the
Really?
minor thresholds are now, in most cases, down to like 1 because they eliminated getting stress for a minor threshold because so many different features create stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they kind of wiped that out, and it's one less thing to think about in choosing damage and like when you get hit. Like, do I want to take stress or whatever? So they've changed a lot of different things about that, and it does. Like, I haven't looked at everything, but they said they rebalanced a lot of the armor and a lot of the weapons too. I still think you have the ability to choose whatever you want. But they changed a lot of different things, the thresholds or abilities. And I know it now did change to 6 armor slots per piece. So, because I know that was one thing that we were, talking about, like three slots and your armor's broken. It's like, well,
Right.
do you really want to use it? Now you have the option to use more, a lot of different things.
But I think you got to remember this too, is in playtesting and in them dropping new changes to the game. Yes, okay, so maybe 3 armor slots was not enough because it didn't, give us enough ability to participate in combat. Well, now we're doing 6. It's entirely possible that in 1.5 it's going to adjust again because now 6 provides too many.
Let's play it.
Well,
Let's play it.
We gotta play
I
it.
agree.
Play it.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
agree,
opinion.
but I feel like this vacillation between like really low numbers, high numbers, moving about, is really going to tell us, all right, where is the proper space between these things?
And that's why
But
we're doing
I
this.
think a good move is getting away from stress and using stress like that because I found that I had to learn how to like use stress accordingly because I was using it a lot outside of combat, and then when I got to combat I'm like, oh my god, I used all my stress. Maybe that was the reason why I felt like I couldn't do anything, is because I did a lot outside of combat.
Because there are certain builds that require the use of stress, and if you've kind of spent most of that, you're going to be really limited.
Yeah, it is nice that those things can be used outside of combat though.
They did also bump up. I believe you now have 6 stress points. I think before it was 5.
I think it was 5, yeah.
Well, big shout out to Demiplane too, because I just looked down at my character sheet.
It's all changed.
It's
Yeah,
all changed
I've been
automatically.
looking at mine.
Oh,
The only
nice.
thing that
Yeah,
I am
like,
seeing on my
boom.
Demiplane is that I have 7 armor slots, not 6. I don't know how. That's currently what mine says.
As a wizard,
Yeah, what's up with that? You're a
I don't
wizard
know.
with 7
I'm
slots?
looking at
Suddenly you're not
you're a
such a
freaking
squishy
mushroom.
cannon.
Yeah,
Why
that's
would you
not
have
fair.
7 slots?
I don't know.
The mycelial network offers a lot more slots.
True.
Oh yeah.
True.
Oh yeah.
Fucking tardigrades.
Yeah, Demiplane, I really enjoyed.
I was going to say, maybe we should give a little opinion on that. It was helpful.
It was
It
laid
was.
out really well.
It was laid out very well. And
It was a little overwhelming, just because it was all brand new and there was a lot of steps.
Yes.
But their steps were organized. So when you went to make your character from like the ground up, it was very structured
Yeah,
and
it
it
was very organized.
beginner friendly.
Mhm.
Just a little. There was some sections of it that was a lot all at once, and I was like, "Whoa, these are all new terminology that's like vaguely similar, but like new, trying, just."
But ultimately a solid UI.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Really, really easy.
It's a
to-
solid tool.
Yeah, definitely.
is.
100%. I enjoyed it.
So for those of you that might be watching this video and you don't know what we're talking about Demiplane, which is app.demiplane.com. And it's a place where you can go and then pick your respective gameplay system. And there's going to be character generation sheets in there that are dynamic and change as the game goes on. Similar to D&D Beyond's sheets for Dungeons & Dragons, but really nicely designed. And it seems like they're keeping up with the various change drops
Yes.
pretty quickly.
Yeah. For sure.
Any thoughts, any last minute thoughts, because we're going to wrap this up soon. Any last minute thoughts on how
He's
Daggerheart...
got the talking stick.
You have the talking stick.
Oh, I've just been chilling with it.
Oh, well, you have the dogging
I
stuff.
was playing around with it. I do
with the documents.
have last minute thoughts because I fucking loved using the death.
Oh, that's right. We didn't talk about
The,
that.
yeah, the
Oh,
death
yes.
mechanic.
Oh my god,
Um,
you were the only one that died.
I was the only one that died, so I'm
believe
the
he
only
died.
sense
So
in this
sad.
group of what death is like. But I think I don't think I haven't been playing D&D for very long. I don't think I've actually had a character die on me yet. But it sounds very
Yeah.
boring. It's like, oh, you're unconscious. Oh, you're dead. Whoops. And you don't really get to do anything with that. That just sounds kind of boring. But
Go on.
when I heard about this whole mechanic, I was like, oh, somebody's gonna die in this
You
one
broke
shot.
my
Somebody's
heart
got
with
to
the one you
die.
picked, though.
Well, you know,
Stupid tuna can.
You looked at
that
me
was
with your
rough.
last words.
I
You
did.
broke my
That was
heart.
I
rough.
did. I loved the opportunity to make a choice. I ended up just like, fuck it, I'll take a gamble. Just make a choice on what you want to do, and then role play with that.
I got to tell you, you haven't been playing D&D very long. I've been playing D&D for over 40 years. The way in which you rolled the dice quietly to yourself, you knew your 3 options, and the way you just said, all right, here's what happens, and you went into a narrative description of how you died was, if there was a moment that sort of emphasizes the narrative aspect of Daggerheart through the game mechanics, you completely exemplified that. You grabbed that and ran with it. It was beautiful. Like, it really, like, I think it brought tears to some people's
Well,
eyes.
Yeah.
We were all like,
They gave me
man.
their dying word.
Spoilers if you haven't seen episode 3.
What?
Oh, shit.
You should be watching it.
Wait.
Wait.
It's a little late for
Don't
that.
worry, we should put up a thing.
We're going to put in a spoiler banner. You just saw it a little while ago.
Yeah.
No, but the fact that, like, we had just played, and I mean, we played all of our episodes in, like, 2 sittings, so it was pretty, we did episode and then episode. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to get attached to these characters, at least for me. Like, I wasn't necessarily attached to any of yours, as I am in, like, our other campaign, because we've been
Speak
playing
for
for so
yourself,
long.
Mushroom.
I was attached, but, like, when you think about...
She didn't get that tongue.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
god.
With the tongue, man.
Anyway, so I can wrap up my thought. The fact that when EI died and then delivered their final words to me before they croaked, that was so sad. But, like, it was cool. Because, like, I mean, we hadn't been with this character for so long, but their death was still impactful because of the way that the story was told.
Yeah.
So I think that was cool.
And then you, Pyre, picking him up
Oh
and
my
carrying him away.
Poor little guy couldn't do anything for
Go watch episode 3. The end. You got to stay to the end. Anybody else? Last minute thoughts on how Daggerheart contributed to the narrative?
I had a question.
Yeah.
For you, actually. As a DM, do you feel like Daggerheart put a little bit more pressure on you? Or do you feel like it alleviated some of the pressure that comes with D&D? Like when it comes to deaths, you have to kind of paint that picture yourself. In Daggerheart, they kind of, like, add a little bit to it to inspire you.
Yeah, I mean, well, I will tell you, Daggerheart as a whole, just because it's new, puts pressure on me because we're really trying to dig into this, and so I'm always worried I'm going to do something wrong. And I feel like a lot of people that are coming to this are going to feel that way. But I feel like a lot of the stress was alleviated by Nathan's taking over of the narrative and just kind of like saying, I got this. And so if the game gave permission indirectly to a player to just sort of like grab their own death scene and run with it, which we all do anyway a lot of the time, but you felt really good about that. I was like, oh my God, I can just sit back and let this unfold. It was beautiful.
But again, it was an intentional design aspect of the mechanic that you have these different ways to go about death, and it's a choice. You can either go in a blaze of glory,
That's so dramatic. I love that.
Right.
Yeah. or you could play it a little more cautiously, and so there's different options that are designed into the way the game is done.
Yeah.
You can gamble with your life.
Yeah,
Right. I think really it just comes back to there's like this mindset that the way Daggerheart is structured, it just funnels you into this much more creative role-playing mindset of like, yes, this is still like a game where you can fight and shit, but it is much more narratively driven, as we've been discussing the whole time.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think what I did is a direct product of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, another shout out to the designers of the game who really kind of came
Fucking
at
beautiful.
it from a player's viewpoint and really kind of looked at it as how does the narrative inform the mechanic, and then the mechanic encourages the narrative.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so last thing we're going to do is if you could pick one thing that you want to see them do, you want to see come out of this game, like what is the
no.
big change that you want to see, what would it be? And if you don't have it, I can go first, but
Why don't you go first?
I'll go
I got
first.
nothing.
So, what I want to see is my collector, my inherent collector, sort of tantalized. I want to see these cards come out. I want to see this game capitalize on booster packs of cards that allow players to either, find a holy grail and have a character trait that is just like, not a trait, but a character ability that is just like off the rails, or maybe a big collection of mundane or mediocre things to choose from. But I feel like having that would be gold.
Can I change that a little bit?
You may.
Because in a world where kind of a physical medium, unfortunately, is kind of dying and a lot of things are going online. Like, because, when we originally were using the cards and then we switched to Demiplay and all of those cards were on there, it was a little easier. But I like the idea of a physical thing, and I know that there's companies, with D&D that put out mystery minifigure containers. So if there was a way to make a physical representation of something and do it that way.
Oh, that's cool.
That could also be something that when you're playing the tabletop game, you can put that on the board. So it could be a little more useful than just, having a card that explains everything that's online.
And a little more physical, too.
Right, and a little more visual.
Gotcha.
Know? So I agree with you. I would just think something along those lines could be cool.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else? Anyone? Something you want to see?
I don't know if they fixed it, but the initiative problem I want to see fixed. I don't know if they did it in the update, so I can't really speak on it.
They've done some things,
Yeah.
They've done things. Yeah.
but I think it's got a little ways to go.
Okay.
So,
I think that's the biggest jarring problem at the moment.
okay. I mean, no pressure if we don't have one. I just threw that out there thinking that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I think we
I have
covered a
nothing
lot.
with the dome.
I think
We
that
did. We
everything
covered a lot.
that we talked about kind of yields to what we would want.
I think I want to, give it another shot.
Yeah.
I want to
absolutely.
spend more time, and especially more time with the updated mechanics. There's a lot that has changed. They've made a lot of changes, and I want to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's a testament to how well they designed it, even in the first run of things.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're compelled to see how these changes affect it and how this develops again in a way that's kind of real time. Like everything is so accelerated versus what it was like when different editions of D&D were coming out. I mean,
Right.
that was over years, decades.
Decades.
And, some of us are old enough to remember really old shit.
I remember opening my first box set in 1981.
Fucking Dragon Magazine, dude.
I'm so pissed at all my. I started recollecting the Dragon magazines.
The old heads are talking.
Yeah, the old
Yeah,
bastards
the old
are
guys are
listening.
talking. All right, so here's what we propose in this, because we're going to wrap this up. Our regular series that we play through Dungeons & Dragons is in the world of Etania on the continent of Emberfell. And there is some really interesting story arcs developing through that. But what we want to do is roll up a second set of characters that exist on another continent in that same world so that we can kind of exist in the same homebrew situation, but we'll play it via Daggerheart. Who knows? Maybe it's a one-shot, maybe it's 3 sessions, maybe it goes on longer than we think. But we're going to try that, and we're going to get to work on that pretty soon. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 more change drops come down, we study them, and then we go to work on that. All right, so thanks to all of you for watching. Please leave a like and a follow. We need you. We need you. We want to keep doing this, so please do that for us. And we're going to be back with more. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you all soon. Go watch our Emberfell campaign.
Please.
Yeah.
All right,
Check that shit out.
Adios.
Let's,
take care, everybody. Thanks again.